So let's move on. So that's cause and effect. Number 7, you must learn and master the true source of all pain and suffering, which is the separation. If you don't bring this in, that means when you're in pain, you're always going to find someone to blame. When you're hurting, you're always going to look for someone to take blame for that hurt. That's projection. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get rid of this pain that's inside us. And the way we do this is we find someone else to blame. That's, again, the shadow. Okay? The shadow is basically where all our pain is. So we're trying to get rid of it, project it onto other people, and say, right, the reason why I'm in pain is because of you. And as long as you keep doing that, then you're keeping the problem, the only problem, hidden. All pain that you have experienced in the body has come from one thing and one thing only, the belief in separation. And this is why Jesus, when he was getting crucified on the cross, he didn't feel a thing, because he didn't believe in separation. He had no pain in the body. He says in the chorus, the body is neutral. It feels nothing, it sees nothing, it hears nothing, it does nothing. All pain is in the mind. Okay? So, unless you come to terms with the source of pain, you're always going to be looking for someone else to blame. So it's very important here that you deal with the problem.
Sorry, that person can be you, can't it?
Of course.
Yeah, so
course,
your ego you as well could be the person you.
Doesn't matter whether you're blaming someone else, you're still hurting yourself, you're blaming yourself. Or you can just go directly to yourself, look in the mirror, and people do this, you know. So you're playing the victim in both ways. So the victim will say, right, it's you that caused all my pain, play the victim, or you can look at your own body and play the victim with yourself. You know, but it's the true source of all pain is coming from the belief in separation. That's why complete forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools in the course, because it deals directly with the true source of pain. Okay, so the next one is you must learn and master exactly what the ego is and what the ego's purpose is. So what is the ego? No.
Shadow. Belief in separation.
No. The ego is a thought system. Okay? The separated self is in the thought system. This is the shadow, personality, and the persona. Okay? This is the ego. It's a thought system built on cause and effect. Okay? Here, the Holy Spirit is another thought system. They're just two names for two thought systems. One of them's hell, and the other one's heaven. Because here, we've all been to hell. We go here to this new thought system, and eventually we go beyond all thought systems. There's no thinking. There's no thoughts in heaven. So the right mind, the Holy Spirit, is the correction for the wrong mind, which is the ego thought system. So when this mindset is corrected, it disappears, this one disappears, and all that's left is the one mind of heaven. So it's important that you know the difference between the ego and the separated self. The separated self is your experience of yourself inside the ego thought system. Okay? Got it? Yeah. So,
say that again. The separation self is my experience.
Inside the ego thought system.
Inside of separation from the ego thought system.
Yeah. So, the next one then, you must learn and master the separated self. Who am I not? And we have just been discussing this. This is basically the personality, the persona, and the shadow. This is who you are not. This is who, as long as you keep defending, you're going to remain. And it's not a nice setup to have because it costs a lot of energy. Okay? A lot of wasted energy. You don't need to do it. And the funny thing is, it costs no energy to be awake, but it costs extreme energy to stay asleep. Because it costs a lot of energy to try to get rid of the shadow, and it costs a lot of energy building a reputation and a persona. And if you're really tired every single day, that's why you're tired. It's because you're building and destroying at the same time. You're in a state of conflict. There's part of you you're trying to get rid of. There's part of you that you want to improve. There's no now. There's no rest. When Jesus says the Son of Man has no place to rest his head, this is what he's talking about. Because we're always creating and we're always miscreating. Okay? And you're not going to understand who you truly are till you understand who you're not. You must know how the persona, again the reputation, works, and you must know the shadow, what you're trying to do with that. And all of those three parts has to be brought back in, owned, and taken responsibility for.
So all of this energy is what I'm using to maintain my persona.
To maintain your separated self.
Yeah.
Yes. It costs an awful lot of energy. Okay? So, the next one, you must learn and master listening to the voice of the ego. Identify the ego's voice. One thing in all my therapy sessions with people, right, they come and they tell me this story. And you know what they even tell me? I was listening to you and this is what my ego told me. And they're still taking it as dance. And I'm saying, well, sure, you know it's your ego. What's the problem? Do you know what I mean? Isn't it? We've all done this, haven't we? You know, this is my ego, this is what the ego's telling me, and I still believe it. Do you know? Seriously, like, the whole point of this is to listen to your ego, identify it, and not take it seriously. Do you know? We just take it far too seriously. It's a voice. Jesus says, I was a man who heard two voices, but I only listened to one. He also says, the only difference between me and you is this. I chose against the ego. That's it. We're the same in every other shape and form, he said. The only difference is I chose against the ego. That meant he didn't react to it. He didn't judge it. He didn't condemn it. He didn't see it as good. He didn't see it as bad. He seen it as nothing. He didn't take it seriously. Yet people come to me and they take their ego so seriously, and that's the problem. That's the only problem they have, is they're just listening to this voice, they're identifying it, no problem, they're doing great, but they're still, the only thing is they're taking it seriously. You don't have to take it seriously. If you can listen to that voice and not take it seriously, that's it. You're in the right mind. You're ready to wake up. As long as you take it seriously, then you're giving it energy. And that's the energy that's keeping it alive. So ultimately in this is why feed it. There was an old Cherokee, I'm sure you've heard this story about the old Cherokee chief. He took out his grandson one day and he was telling the grandson, there's a war going on in your mind. He says, there's two wolves at war with each other. Okay? And the young boy says, which of them wins? And the old Cherokee Indian says, the one that you feed. So as long as we keep feeding the ego, we're giving it energy, we're giving it strength over us. And how you feed it is you react to it, you judge it, you condemn it, you just, basically, it's nothing. So don't take it seriously. You must learn and master the source of the authority problem. What is the authority problem? Who have we a problem in authority with?
God.
You think?
Myself?
Yes. The illusion is the authority problem of God. Okay? The biggest authority problem we have is with each other. Who's in charge? Who's the best? You know? Who's the best student of A Course in Miracles? Who's the best teacher of A Course in Miracles? Who's the best footballer? Who's the best this? We're all, see, we're all one. What we're always trying to do, and you look at this world domination, there are always people trying to dominate other people. And, you know, it's not about getting millions and millions of people to treat each other the same. It's about you looking. The one thing that you must do is learn this. You're not here to conquer or be conquered. Do you know what that means? You're not here to be the victimizer or the victim. Because if you're the victim, you're as bad as the victimizer. Why is that? Because the victim needs the victimizer to play the victim, so it seeks out. The victimizer and the victim are one. You're here, okay, to stand up for yourself and be equal with everybody else. Not to be better, but not to be worse. If we're all equal and we're all one, then we have to live and demonstrate our oneness with each other, our equality. And if you're saying that you're better or you're worse than anybody else, both are the same. You know, we all feel worthless through our guilt, of course. So we're all easy to go, oh, you know, I'm this, you know, we're playing a victim. You need to snap out of it. You have to stand up for yourself. You're not better than anybody else, and you're not worse than anybody else. And when you can reach that state, you're in the balance. That's what the Buddha was talking about, the middle way. Okay? That's the authority problem. You must be willing to learn and master the art of responsibility. See how the two of them correlate with each other? Why?
Because when you don't have an authority, when you conquer the authority problem, you're able to take responsibility for everything that happens to you yourself. You realize that I am creating my experiences, so I'm responsible.
When you don't take responsibility, you automatically play the victim. You see, you can have an authority problem where you are bossing people, but you also can have an authority problem where you're not valuing yourself. That's an authority problem. You must value yourself. You must learn to value yourself. You're as good as everybody else. You're not better, but you're as good as everybody else. So by taking responsibility, when you take responsibility, okay, you're not playing the victim. When you don't take responsibility, you're playing the victim. Now you have an authority problem once more. Okay, so the responsibility basically comes in when you take responsibility. Now you're taking responsibility for every emotion, you're taking responsibility for all your projections, you're taking responsibility for all your experiences. Now you're standing up for yourself. Now you become strong. And you see what's after that? You must learn and master the role of the victim. So you see those three correlate with each other, the authority problem, the responsibility, and the victim. Okay? Because they're all tied in together. You must master and learn what each of those three, because if you have a problem with one, it leads into the other and leads into the other. You must learn and master the ego defense mechanism called passive-aggressive. What's the passive-aggressive? What's another name for that? Victim.
What?
The victim. Because you sit in silence. Remember what forgiveness to destroy is? You sit in silence while this other person basically, you act all godly, you act all nice, you can't, you know, you have to have this persona around you that you can't say this, you can't do that, and all the while inside you fume with anger, you want to strangle the person. Okay? It's a defense mechanism that keeps everything inside, and if you want to get sick, the one way, sure way you're going to get sick very quickly is play the passive-aggressive. There's another name for it, is when you bottle everything up inside. Number 15, you must learn and master trust. Who do you trust and what should you trust? So who do you trust?
Yourself.
Huh?
Yourself? No. Always fair.
Do you trust yourself?
No. I should trust myself.
Do you trust yourself?
I should trust.
Do you know yourself? Well, how could you trust yourself? Think about it, you can only trust what you know. So who do you trust?
Holy Spirit.
Do you know the Holy Spirit? Think about it, you can only really put your trust into something you know. So what do you know? Ego. Yes. So what do you do now? It's very clear that you trust the ego because of how you feel. So what Jesus says in the Course, then you know you trust the ego because how you feel. So you're asked to relinquish your trust in the ego, and where now do you put your trust? In God? Huh?
In God?
Do you know God?
Not yet.
Well, how can you trust God? I like the answer. What you're asked to trust here, okay, is forgiveness. Because if you practice forgiveness, you'll know it works. And the more you practice forgiveness, you'll build that trust up that it works. And everybody who uses forgiveness will tell you one thing: this works. That's all you're asked to do, because that trust and forgiveness will take you to knowing God. Simple as that. You can't trust yourself because you don't know yourself, because this image of the separated self is not who you are.
Just forgiveness starts with yourself.
Of course, all forgiveness is yourself.
But
You
then
can only forgive yourself at the end of the day. But we can't just forgive ourselves for ourselves. How we forgive ourselves is through our projections.
It starts with yourself, though.
Of course it is. Of course it is. All forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Okay?
I reckon in theory what you're saying is probably right, but in reality, take for instance, you're living in an area where you have drug pushers coming around and you go and say, look it, you're doing wrong, but I'll forgive you. What will he do? He will shoot you.
Yeah, but you see...
So in reality, let's be
But
very
why would
real
you?
with that.
Yeah, but why would you go? Why would you need to go up and actually say that to him?
Because he's devastating your area and probably your family.
Yeah, but the
You know,
forgiveness.
you have to make a stand, as
Yeah,
you say.
of course.
and
But the
confront
forgiveness that we're talking about here is did quietly and gently within yourself. It's not verbal. You don't go up to people and say, "I forgive you. I do this. I do that."
I know that.
Yeah.
Well, you have to make a stand. You know, just what I said.
Of course,
Maybe.
of course. But what we're talking about here, right, is really about yourself within yourself. You can sit and just quietly forgive that person within yourself without having to go up and basically, that would be the ego, making a big statement, basically to get you into trouble. You know, and when, you know, people stand up and I forgive you, that's pure ego. This is not what this is about. This is about gently and quietly realizing that you want peace in your life, and to condemn someone.
Well, you're talking about silent communication here, which, as far as
But that's different again. You see, you can also take action. Do you know? You can go around and you can basically take action in your community. You can have drug awareness. There's many ways you can do that. You don't have to fight force with force. Do you know what I'm saying? There's many ways that you can deal with problems. You can deal with them in loving ways. You can deal with them in gentle ways. Or you can just meet the problem head on with force, and you know what that happens. You meet force with force, you have devastation all around. Okay, so there's always another way to deal with this. You know, there are many ways to deal with this. Okay? So, to trust, forgiveness. And that's what you do. If you're doing A Course in Miracles, you must learn to master trust in forgiveness, because you're not going to trust it until you start using it. You must learn and master what all healing is, because all healing basically is self-forgiveness. So every time that you look at healing in A Course in Miracles, you're talking about self-forgiveness. Nothing else. It's never about hands on. It's not about miracle chants. Okay? It's not about mantras or anything else. Every time that you practice or use forgiveness, you're actually giving yourself a healing. End of story. It's not complicated. You must learn and master the ego right mind and its purpose. What is the purpose of the ego right mind? What is it? It's that delusional part of your mind that basically makes you think that you're right-minded. Where now you start to act all spiritually special. You're better than everybody else. You know more than everybody else. And now you've made it. You change your behavior, you don't change your mind. This is the ego's trap to keep you out of your true right mind. Everybody that's doing A Course in Miracles starts off in the ego right mind. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are doing A Course in Miracles are still in the ego right mind. It's a very difficult mindset to get out of, because why? You're so convinced you're in your true right mind. But if you're really honest with how you feel, If you're in your true right mind, you would be in bliss every day. You would be in a state of peace. You would be seeking nothing outside yourself. There's very few people doing A Course in Miracles are actually in their true right mind all of the time. Very few.